I created a restaurant in my garage. People were dining in my driveway.
Wow.
The garage was open. They could see the deep fryers and everything like that. Like, I was full on doing it. Got to the point where we got too busy. Asked my wife, like, what are we going to do again? My name is Cory Lafranchi. I own a company called Street Eats. We are progressive Seattle street food. Born and raised in Tacoma, my entire family. So we are just proud of where we're from. We want to bring our flavor profile to Utah. So our current restaurant's on Dixie and Sunset right now.
All right, that's awesome. So you're from Seattle.
Yep.
And the restaurant Street Eats, right? Is this the only location here in St. George?
It is.
Okay.
Yep. And then we have the project with Red Cliffs Mall.
Oh, awesome. All right, so you're going to be in the Red Cliffs Mall pretty soon here then, huh?
Yeah, within the next couple of months, man. I took over where Kaiseki Sushi is, so a couple doors down from Lululemon on the terrace there.
All right, that's pretty sweet. So what kind of food are we talking here? Street Eats.
Yeah, Street Eats.
That sounds awesome.
Right now, we're a fast casual concept where we focus a lot on burgers and tacos, a little bit of small plates. And with our burgers, it's just elevated in the sense of like what we're doing on it. It's more chef driven. It's, pretty seasonal. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds right up my alley, and I can't believe I haven't been there yet. If you can't tell, I love food. So.
Yeah. Dude, where you been, man? You haven't heard about it? Nothing, huh?
I know. I moved here 3 months ago, so you gotta give me a break. I'm just now discovering all these places. So
yeah,
Street Eats, that's where I'm gonna be.
Yep.
Probably tonight.
Yeah, do it, man. It's a good time. We definitely focus on the connection between us is just people more than it is the food, right? It's a community-based restaurant. What we love is to, when you open that door, we introduce you by name. And we're pretty good at just memorizing everyone's name. So it is very connection built. And the way we do that is tying it through food. We're creative in the kitchen, but the whole goal is just to meet you as a person. What are your interests? What are you doing tonight? Things like that. We just chop it up and have real conversations.
That's very interesting. In my line of work, experience is like pretty much the entire goal, and you have to be a master at the experience because in software or in mobile apps especially, you have 3 inches of 3 inches wide, 6 inches tall of screen space to capture somebody's attention. So talk to me a little bit like Street Eats experience. What kind of things that what are you doing with Street Eats that kind of sets you apart or might be unique in your perspective?
Sure. The biggest thing that sets us apart is it starts with the foundation. Like, we create the restaurants. We don't just draw a plan, hand it to a contractor and everything like that, right? Like, we are drawing the art. We are sourcing, our feelings. We're creating the space and giving the space a soul, a life. And we know when we're building it, how we want to entertain. It's the same way as like you getting ready for a 4th of July party at your house, right? You're going to clean up your living room. You're going to, put pillows certain places. You're going to, set up your patio, the grill's on. Like, you want people to have a good time.
Yeah.
They don't want to just come over to your house and it's just messy and it's just whatever. So we do the same thing with restaurants. We take all of our experiences, our feelings, our creativity, and we just splatter them all over walls, man, and just make sure like people want to be there. They want to hang out with us.
That's super cool. Yeah. That sounds like way different than what you see like over at the, at these other chain restaurants that, where they just rent the space, cook the food and send you out the door.
100%.
So yeah, I'm excited to check this out because in my experience, like for that what you just said reminds me of an experience I had today. I went to Target to go buy a TV for my office, and one of the first things I noticed when I walked in there is the cart that I grabbed didn't make a single noise on the smooth like floor.
Sure.
Whereas that's a weird thing to notice and like capture as a customer walking into a store. But whether we like it or not, every single one of us is affected by the experience we have, whatever we're doing.
In anything,
so, like with what you're doing, it makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of people listening will hopefully be able to experience your food.
Yeah.
So what is your role in Street Eats? you own the restaurant.
Yeah, me and my wife.
Yeah, and so are you involved with like the cooking? Do you plan meals? What does it look like to be a restaurant owner?
Dude, it looks like chaos, to be honest with you. Refining roles. So I cook on the line every single day. I have interactions with people every single day, right next to my wife. My wife is cooking right with me. So it's her and I. And then we have amazing staff members that obviously are with us throughout the day. But in the mornings, you'll see me and my wife just throwing down on the line, having conversations. And I want to bounce back to the cart scenario that you had. Yeah. That's very true, right? You're going to push that cart down the aisle, and if it has a squeaky wheel or if it's rattling, it's easy to ditch the cart. Like you're just like, this one's not for me. Yeah. So when you look at like that analogy, a lot of people do that in restaurants, whether it's the experience or the transaction or how you felt in the space, or if it was whatever. If it has that squeaky wheel or it's wobbly, you're ditching it. So, and we are very aware of that. So when you do come in, again, you're addressed by your name, especially when you're frequent. We're going to talk to you about your day. We're going to see what you're doing for the weekend. The biggest thing for us is we are very passionate about food and hospitality. Somewhere along the lines, when COVID happened, we lost hospitality. Everybody did, right? Restaurants took huge hits. Remote work came. So it's like you weren't interacting anymore. You weren't going to a bar. You weren't doing anything. So we had to make sure we wanted to bring hospitality forward and let that be the light to kind of guide that food. Once I place the food in the middle between you and I, now we can have a conversation. Now we can really get to know each other because we're breaking bread with each other. We're sharing that experience, and it happens to be my hands cook the food that you're going to nourish your body with. So everything just ties in with Street Eats, with the hospitality and our culture and the style that we do things, and then how passionate we are with food.
Yeah, I'm not sure if very many people like take heed of how powerful, hospitality is.
Yeah.
As you were explaining that, it reminded me of this pie stand that I went to. I don't even remember the name of it. I just remember how good the pie was, one. Yeah. And two, how friendly the people were that made the pie. Their location didn't really call much attention to like, oh, this is unique. Yeah. But I remember the experience. I think I remember. It was Vernal Pies.
Okay. Where's that at?
That. I don't know. I think it's somewhere up north here because I was with my family traveling and we were doing like a camping trip. Yeah. But I just remember that pie stand. It was not a pie stand. It was like a pie store.
Sure.
But it was in this little tiny town that had nothing. And I just remember how nice the people. And I was like, how far do you have to drive to get to work? And they're like, 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that's fantastic. Like I'll get 10 pies, right? Give me 10.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. But yeah, man, I think the power of hospitality is kind of overlooked in a lot of different ways, whether you're going to a fast food place or not, or a fast casual like myself, or a full service restaurant. We got one shot with you, and if you don't hit that mark, then you're out. So for us, it's more connection based than transactional based. I can care less about your money. Like I really do. I really can care less. I care about the connection that you and I are going to build. Or if it's just a one-time thing that you come in and support our small business, man, and shut us out, like I'm super grateful for that, even if I never see you again. But just know, if I keep on seeing you, we're going to build a relationship. That's just what it is.
That's awesome. And extremely powerful. I think this makes me think of with in my line of work, because I have the app St. Jeezy. Yeah. And people kind of scoff at me. Some marketing agencies that kind of are like, what? They're a little bit skeptical when I say the word free for businesses.
Sure.
So, because we're just, with coupons, it's one of the only business arenas that you can offer advertising for free for small businesses. Yeah. And you still make a profit because people are going to subscribe. I don't know if you know, there's some products or companies here in Southern Utah that offer coupons and things, and they charge businesses at the same time, and it causes them to lose interest in, it causes small businesses to just not be able to compete or not be able to get, what things that you offer, for example, street eats, out to the public.
Yeah.
And so we're kind of flipping marketing on its head a little bit and saying, you know what, F it. We want to give restaurants and local businesses like street eats and any service-based businesses the opportunity to get on there and get eyes on their business.
Yeah, 100%.
And it all happens within that first few seconds. When somebody downloads the app, they have to be able to see what it's about, what it's meant for, and create, like you were saying, like a little bit of a relationship with the consumer.
Yeah.
And so
I think that's an amazing idea. From a small business standpoint, the only thing I could probably say this for all small businesses, like we just want a shot. We just want one shot for somebody to walk through that door. There's times when street eats is slow and you're just standing there waiting. You're just like, man, I can't wait for that person to walk through that door just so I can like shower them with love. There's so many small businesses out there standing at that door just waiting for somebody to walk in. And whether they're not getting any kind of marketing, you're saying like there are companies that are charging money for companies to get into that advertisement. That's very real. Not every small business can afford that price tag, whether or not it's in exchange or it's gift cards or it's just plain currency up front. And I think for small businesses, especially in hospitality, the margins are already small enough. So I think that's amazing way that you're going about it. A little gritty. I'm down with it, dude. I started Street Eats with $200, a pop-up tent and a grill.
Awesome.
And I built it to where it's going now. And it has been just a grind and a hustle. And I would love a moment to meet somebody like yourself to be like, dude, I will promote you and put people through your door for free. You know, like that's insane. Like people won't even believe it.
Yeah.
So,
right. It's hard to believe. But, numbers check out, so we're going to do it.
Dude, I love it. Yeah. You gotta take a shot, man.
Absolutely.
For sure.
So tell me a little bit more about the beginnings of Street Eats.
Yeah.
What was that experience like for you? I mean, you're talking about a tent and a grill. So.
Yeah. I have been in and out of cooking for a long time. I bounced from construction to cooking, construction to support my family. First and foremost, I wanted to make sure my family, my kids were good. The bills were paid, food, everything were okay. But my passion laid in cooking. I'm a graduate from Le Cordon Bleu with my bachelor's in culinary arts and business management. And I never, I shouldn't say I never. I went through culinary school. I've worked for some of the best chefs in Seattle, James Beard, Michelin star, all of these things. I kept on climbing up the ranks. And then I didn't do much with cooking. I went back to construction just because that was what I needed to do. It wasn't until I took a trip out to Philly to see my mom. She lived in South Philly for over a decade. I just got so inspired by the city, the culture, the stories, the interactions with people. Just like I'm telling you, like, hey, we introduce you to name.
Yeah.
Same thing in Philly. East Coast, is just powerful in food. That's where we connect. That's where we hang out. Things like that. So I love that. I came back. I told my wife, I was like, dude, I got to do something here. And I didn't want to say, hey, can I take $1,000 or anything like that, right? It was, can I take $200? Yeah. Let me make a menu here. And I made a menu, dollar tacos. I think there was it was $1. And people would come up and be like, hey, you want 10? I'm like, bro, I'm busy. Nothing was in perspective at that point. But anyways, my mom drew up this menu because we didn't have one. And she just wrote Street Eats on top of it. And I was selling dollar tacos. And that just we sold out within an hour. And it just kept evolving in this pop-up world, if you know what that is. It's like underground dining. You pop up your restaurant, you leave your restaurant, you pop it up. So I was doing that all around the city, just going into other people's restaurants, be like, hey, can I take over your kitchen for the night? Things like that. So that kind of just evolved. It got to a point where I had to ask my wife, I was like, what do we want to do with this? Like, it's obviously has a little bit of traction here.
Yeah.
We decided we wanted to buy a food truck because we couldn't afford that brick and mortar. So anyways, we opened up this food truck, and it was just like the floodgates of just lines and people just seeing what I was doing. And I somehow just started doing burgers and really creative style burgers. A food critic wrote about me 3 months after that. Super acclaimed food critic. Her name was Sue Kidd. Rest in peace. Wrote about me, loved my food, my style, everything like that, and just really put me on the map throughout the city. Yeah, man, I did that for a while. Opened up a cocktail lounge, and then pandemic hit.
Oh man, okay.
Just like everybody, it's almost like every podcast you talk about or every story in hospitality, it's like we're doing good, and then COVID. So when COVID hit, I talked to the family and I said, let's sell the house. Let's do everything. Let's move to St. George. You know, my brother and sister-in-law live here. It's not like I threw a dart on a map and was like, yo, St. George.
Yeah.
You know, so we knew about this place. We loaded up our trailer in my truck and shipped all our belongings to Vegas, and we didn't have a house here, nothing. We just left. Wow. So we just fresh start, fresh adventure, no matter where it was going to take us.
That sounds wild.
It was it was wild. So anyways, ended up buying a house downtown. I didn't have a job. You know, my wife was working remote at the time. I was like, I got to do something. I don't want to go be a chef somewhere. Like I put some feelers out and things like that. And I created a restaurant in my garage, and I opened up the gate and I was like, hey, it was almost like the same thing about me doing the dollar tacos.
Right. Wow. So
took a shot, opened the garage, and people were dining in my driveway. Like I had a dining room table, tablecloth, you know, decor.
That is so sweet.
Like, the garage was open. They could see the deep fryers and everything like that. Like, I was full on doing it, and then got to the point where we got too busy. We're like, same conversation as me going back to from the pop-up to the food truck, asked my wife, like, what are we going to do again?
Yeah.
You know, and she was like, well, brick and mortar. I was like, let's try it.
Take the step, you know, right?
Let's take the step. So we did it. You know, and that's where we're on Dixie and Sunset.
Right.
And now we're going into Red Cliff Small.
Yeah, this is wild, because what I'm hearing here is basically a very talented person. You know, this, you know, before COVID, when you were getting started, you kind of started to discover, okay, just give me the right tools and things can happen. Mm-hmm. For somebody that's like, you know, because you're passionate, you're educated, you're skilled, you've gone through the hard part of getting started. Yeah. You know, even though what you're doing is never easy.
Sure.
But it's a matter of give me the opportunity, and I'll take advantage of it.
100%.
And also a little bit of, you know, make something happen when there's not really much of an opportunity. You got to make the opportunity. Like, you know, making a restaurant out of your garage. Like, that's very impressive, you know? And I mean, honestly, true, like, success comes from the little things that most people call failures. You know, entrepreneurs, we call that steps to success, honestly.
Yeah.
Every little challenge is just another problem to solve. And, you know, it's really cool to hear your story and like learn about that. So I'm excited to see your place, Street Eats, open up in the mall. Yeah. For sure. And I'm going to go eat, you know, probably in the next day or so. Sure. Before that opens up. But way awesome, man.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, I agree. It's it's just problem solving at that point, you know, and I was never really handed anything. Like I didn't have a bunch of money to open things, from the $200 to the garage to like all of these things were just creative things in my head that I needed to get out. Which leads me to the mall location. The mall location is super fun. Like the way we are creating it, the ambiance, the art. You know, my mom hand paints all the murals within that. Wow. You know, my daughter is helping me with murals on our merch wall. So it's very just personal to us. We're telling our stories not through food, not through hospitality, but art and creativity and space. And when you walk in there, we want you to feel inspired when you leave. Whether or not you like your meal or not, like that's not for me to judge. I at least want you to feel inspired.
Yeah.
I want you to have a place to leave or have a meeting in or whatever, and just I don't know, man. Just feel a certain type of way before you walked in those doors.
Yeah, with Street Eats, it's a story that you never get tired of telling.
100%.
So when people are getting in there and they're sitting down, I'm sure they're asking a lot, like, "What's this?"
Sure.
Like, why is what's the purpose behind this painting or whatever?
Yep.
You get to I'm sure it's just exciting to always be telling that. And it's because it's part of who you are. It's part of your family.
Yeah.
And like, absolutely, that's awesome. To be able to do that.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Cool.
Yeah. I think it's super important for me to put my family first, trust the process with God, and then I can expose it to the world because it's super vulnerable in our industry. We set ourselves on a stage that you can judge.
Right. Yeah.
That's a hard place to be, man.
There's one, it makes me a little bit jealous because with Street Eats or, any restaurant in general, you're playing with like one of the most natural pleasures of life that we all get to experience, which is food. And it's necessary. It's a necessity that we all have.
Yeah.
And you're making it an enjoyable experience. In my realm with, mobile app development, I guess we could say nowadays that it's pretty necessary. Yeah. But it's not natural.
Sure.
It doesn't like appeal to our our needs of survival or what we get joy out of per se. Yeah. Even though we can, watch a movie or something with our family. But I mean, social media kind of ruins it. Yeah. A bunch of other products out there, they make life easier perhaps, but at the same time, it just kind of tears us down a little bit of who we are. It can.
Yeah, absolutely.
But so, it makes me jealous because, we're talking about power and being able to like influence people around us.
Yeah, 100%.
And, it's really awesome to see that, with Street Eats, you're able to do that. And honestly, you're making it look easy because you're so like, you make it, it's a family affair. People love what they're doing. And it's something that I think everybody's got to experience.
Yeah, I agree, man. I'm very blessed to go down this path and this avenue and all of that. And, being a cook wasn't always what it is today. Cooking is like the celebrity thing now. There's famous chefs there, it's up there, but I'm just glad I get to work with food every day. Like that's the powerful thing to me is just the food, man. I can't get enough of it.
It's simple, right? For you, it's simple. It's just like, And for me, when people ask me what I like to do for fun, I write code.
Do you?
As dumb as that may sound, like
That's
if I
insane.
were to choose what I wanted to do, I would be writing code.
Really?
For fun.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I like to play video games and things, but I would choose writing code and building, creating something out of nothing. 10 times out of 10. So
coding is one thing I wish I knew how to do. I think it's super creative in its own world into a realm a lot of people do not understand. And I'm inspired by that.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, it depends. It depends on your perspective of it. But when I discovered it, because I was studying business in college, but when I took one computer science class where we had to build like a website for the semester. Yeah. And I ended up building 5 websites, and I just couldn't get enough of this concept of I can take what's in my head, put it onto what we all have, which is the phone, and make it accessible for every single person that has a phone in the world. Sure. And it's not like, I often like to, I can't really compare, the effect to like doctors or anything, but I like to relate kind of the difference between software and doing like medicine, for example, because like a surgeon will be able to, save a certain number of lives, throughout the day or throughout the week, doing what they do. But I've seen several, like I've interviewed with a bunch of different little companies that are medical software companies, and they're, a ragtag team of 5 good, talented engineers are affecting millions of lives every single day.
100%.
Like I remember there was this company, there's a mobile app called like Owlet or something. And it's an app that connects to a sock via Bluetooth, and it wakes you up if your baby's heart rate starts to go below like a normal amount. So you can like, save your baby from like SIDS or whatever might be happening. And they're saving babies' lives all the time, and they're just on their computer. So to me, I'm like, okay, I can go to school for 12 years, or I can just study my butt off for like, a little bit and just learn how to create these awesome experiences that I might not be able to see like who's experiencing and when, but I can know that I'm making a difference,
Absolutely.
So I see limitless potential in technology, and that's what I get a kick out of.
Sure. Yeah. I love that. The space, I think the biggest thing I can relate to you in both of our worlds is just the creation, right? Yeah. Creating. I think every person needs to feel something creative, whether you're drawing a picture or writing code or cooking food or, or if you're in the medical industry, like we love and thrive on creating just for other people's pleasures, or our own. Like we create things, we put it in the world, some stick, some don't, but it's about going through that process and creating things that are in your head. I think that's
totally.
I think it's almost romantic in a sense, in my mind. So
and it's what's also astounding to me is, like for example, with street eats. I'm sure every time you're preparing a plate, you're probably in your mind comparing it to the plate before it.
100%.
And maybe making plans as it's going out. You're probably thinking, I could do this better on the very next plate. 100%. And so people don't realize that when you're in the thick of it and you're, in the heart of innovation in this way, like people, everybody sees new things popping up all the time with food, and food has been around forever, right?
Sure.
Ingredients have pretty much been the same forever.
Sure.
But yet innovation is just constantly happening with restaurants like street eats.
Yeah.
So, like, what a cool thing.
You hit the nail on the head. I would say every burger I cook or whatever it is, every plate I cook, I'm doing it better than I did before. I'm trained in my mind where it's like I will never send out bad food, But I am. The way I plate a burger will be different than the plate before that. It'll be better. The way I set forks, the way I set it on your table, the way I introduce myself, the way I talk to you is better than the customer prior. So I'm just trying to find out that consistency and balance to just, have it great every time.
Yeah.
And that's hard.
Yeah, I like that we're talking like this because like people don't think this. When we go to restaurants, we're not thinking like from in the shoes of the chef.
Sure.
So it's really good to get kind of the perspective of what goes through your mind as you're preparing a plate.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure also you have like it's almost a reflection of the day, like how you're feeling that day too. Because I'm sure you have like a moment where you're just like, I'm not having a good time right now, and the plate kind of reflects that.
Yep.
But of course, it's never going to be bad.
Yeah.
It just maybe you're just if that makes sense.
It could miss. Yeah. It's. Cooking is we cook with emotions.
Right. Yeah.
It's not like this conveyor belt thing where I'm just slopping, rice on a plate and passing it down to the next.
Right. It's not McDonald's.
Right. So it's you use a lot of emotion. If you're mad, if you're angry, if you're happy, you could tell through the food, the way it's plated, the way it tastes. Is it seasoned? Is it, how's it look? How is it, set down in front of you? Because if a server or myself comes and just throws a plate right there, you'd be like, yo, dude, what the heck, man? Like, my bad, But that will make you feel a certain type of way about the squeaky wheel on the cart. Like, you might just ditch it in that moment. So it plays in so many different emotions in your body and just your mind that, you got to control that, and you got to figure out a way to express yourself in other ways.
Yeah, totally. So, what a cool perspective. So I want to know more about like street eats and in the future. Like what are your plans for street eats going forward? We have this new location at the mall, at the Red Cliffs Mall, right?
Yep.
So street eats going into the future. What are your plans beyond where we're going?
Sure. Man, that's a hard question because I, especially as a business owner, you want to grow, you want to expand, you want to go up to Salt Lake, you want to put one in Seattle. I'm very grateful for where I am today from a $200 pop-up tent.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm so into where I am right now to making that experience even better. I think right now my focus is how do I change from a fast casual concept to a full service restaurant, right? We're going to have a bar, everything like that. So how can I make that the best? How can I make the hospitality there just shine above anything else? How can I get the community in there? So right now I'm just focused on that location. If I am going to expand, I would put one back in our city. I would put one in Salt Lake. But at what cost? Like, is the quality going to be good if I'm not there all the time?
Okay.
What is those procedures? What does that leadership look like? What are we investing in at that point to make it just harmony?
Right.
So what I'm doing at the moment is me and my wife started a company called Bud and Betty's, where we could showcase that through Street Eats. It will be accessible to everybody outside of Street Eats, but we will start it in our mall location. So essentially what that is will be bitters for drinks, for cocktails. It'll be simple syrups, honeys, and chef salts. So it's everything that we created, flavor profiles, things that we use in our daily operations, that you could take home with you. A cocktail lounge can buy it from us and use it into their cocktails. You know, we just landed on a menu at the book club. Have you heard of them yet? The Speakeasy?
No.
All right, dude.
These are places I got to be
good. Yeah.
I can get to know here.
Hey, shout out Christy. I'm going to put your company on real quick. The book club. She came to my last pop-up dinner at Street Eats about a month ago.
Okay.
She wanted to be a chef. She wanted to create hospitality. So she dove into opening up a speakeasy. Anyways, it is at the Social District, through a bookcase into her gorgeous little ambiance of a bar. And she does small plates there. She does cocktails, mocktails as well for those that don't drink. But she put our fermented hot honey in one of her cocktails, put Bud and Betty's on. Very grateful for that. So we love seeing that. We love providing ingredients that we're using and seeing somebody else play with them and be successful off those flavor profiles or whatever they're doing with them, or just elevating up their experience a little bit. So that's what Bud and Betty's is. So
that's pretty sweet. Taking it outside of the restaurant, right?
100%.
Taking the name. So Bud and Betty's.
Yeah.
Really cool. So we're going to see that in Street Eats at the mall.
Yep. We're cool. Going to try to get it like an e-commerce going, just for anybody. We created it for people at home more than like a retail spot or a restaurant or anything. So if you were at home, be like, man, I really want some of that citrus salt.
Yeah.
You can get that citrus salt, or the fun guy that we have that we season our burgers with. You can bring that home. So it's just to elevate your home kitchen bar. So.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Giving customers the opportunity to experience you and what you're all about outside of the restaurant.
Sure,
is ultimately is going to bring them back even more, right? To
100%.
Get to know the whole experience. Way cool. So that reminds me of. So I'm a fan of wingers.
Yeah.
In high school, I really liked going to wingers. And way back then, they would put out their signature sauce like on the tables.
Yeah.
And I would go and get lunch there just to snag like 2 or 3 of those bottles.
100%. Yeah.
Because they weren't selling them. And then, a few weeks ago, I went back there and they don't have the bottles there, and you have to buy the bottle if you want to have the sauce.
Sure.
But I was like, that's what's needed. We need to I think every good restaurant like Street Eats and Bud and Betty's that combination right there needs to be, kind of the experience that we all want to have. We just maybe didn't know it yet.
Yeah.
Taking the experience that we had at the restaurant home and being able to
100%.
reflect and tell stories. I mean, because everybody talks about the new cool place on the street, you know?
Sure.
And so, we're way cool. So Bud and Betty's.
Bud and Betty's.
Bud and Betty's. Everybody's got to check that out for sure.
You got to, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's, we're super excited about it. You said it right. We want you to experience a good time within our walls. We want you to experience a good time with your friends, you know, whether you're taking our products home or not. Whether it's a good experience and just conversating with your friends, be like, yo, you got to check out this restaurant. They got some crazy stuff going on. Or, hey, you could take this product home and we can create it and, you know, cook some food with it. And it's just that much better. So it's all about just the conversation piece. It's about just passing the buck. You know, it's about a lot.
Really cool.
Yeah, man.
All right. Yeah, I think we're about ready to wrap up here. It's been a pleasure, Cory.
Dude.
You're awesome, man.
My pleasure, man. Anytime.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.